as the Toons prepare to do battle. A final look at the teams, and Tonga have kept a fairly stable unit throughout this World Cup. And again, not many changes today. There is a new halfback though, and Nafe Tufui, but the forward pack remains pretty much intact with the formidable loose forward trio of Lose, Afiaki, and the captain Mana Otai. And the Côte d'Ivoire have had some dreadful injury worries in this competition, and their two key players, Dali and Sonoto, are not in the starting lineup today, although rather strangely they are on the reserve bench. The side has displayed growing confidence, and key players to keep an eye on include Tuso and J.E. in the front row, the tall locks Bardo and Kone, and the men close to the scrum, Dupont and Kamara. And a look at the two replacements for the two sides, and just have a look there on the Ivory Coast side. Dali and Sonoko are both in the reserves, and really they are the key players for the Ivory Coast. They have both suffered injuries, but rather strange to see them sitting on the reserve bench for this final game for them in Group D. Don Reardon of the United States is the referee. To his left is Ephraim Sklar from Argentina. To our right, in fact, is Ken McCartney of Scotland. Don Reardon of the United States, doing his 7th international today, will look after this match between Tonga and the Ivory Coast.
Well, Mana Samoa is the smallest number of registered players in the competition, and Ivory Coast has the second number, over 2,700. So we're seeing here really the 12 seed and 16 seed playing.
So almost set to go now, Tonga and Ivory Coast. Don Reardon of the United States just checking with the Tongan side. And away we go in this Group D match, the final game of the World Cup for these two sides. Tonga wearing the white strip today have taken it in. The first touch goes to Nafe Tufui, the new halfback. And we go to the first line out of the game. Nafe Tufui coming in for Manu Vunipola, who was ruled out through injury. Inoki Afiaki at the back wearing the number 7 jersey for the Tongan team. Tonga has early success in the lineup, but the referee has the whistle. And the ball was not thrown in straight. So Tonga have an opportunity to feed a scrum.
Well, they make the Tongan scrums away in at about 870 k's, which makes it one of the bigger packs in this competition. The Ivory Côte d'Ivoire scrum comes in at about 840 k's. Scrumming is the strength of Tonga. We should see them dominate this phase quite comfortably.
Straight again for Tufui to push the kick down on the blind side. Beautifully taken in by Max Brito. He's the left wing three-quarter for the Côte d'Ivoire. And the first penalty of the game is awarded to the Ivory Coast, just inside their own 22. Good work by Max Brito, who came in as a replacement in the first match. And already we have an injury worry. And it may well be the man who took the ball in. Yes, it is. Number 11, Max Brito, taken in quite a heavy tackle. And they really have had terrible injury problems at this World Cup.
Yes, well, they've lost their two key players, and certainly that doesn't help when you're seated number 16. But Tonga has also got some problems in that they changed their coach 6 weeks ago after a rather poor Super 10. If we have a look at their results in the Super 10, they lost to the Free State 15-12. They lost to Auckland 37-25, and they lost to Queensland 32-20. Then they had a horrible day at Christchurch, and they beaten 75-5 by Canterbury, and I think that precipitated the Tongan Rugby Union changing the coach.
Well, let's have a look and see if we can pick this up. It looked like a fairly regulation tackle, but Brito, well, he tried to lift his head up and took the full brunt of the Tongan pack as they came through, and he looks to be in considerable trouble, does Max Brito. And referee Don Reardon looks as though he's calling for the stretcher. So this is a sad blow for the Ivory Coast team in the very first couple of minutes of this game. Well, it could well be that Atanasi Dali may well come into the game. In fact, it's Terry Kuami, who is coming onto the field. Well, they had about 3 or 4 players replaced in their previous match against France when they performed so well. Let's just see if we can pick it up again. Brito took it in quite strongly. Went down there as Afiaki made the tackle. Now look as he tries to lift his head, and the Tongan pack comes pouring in over the top.
Of interest for the Tongans, with the small number of players they've got, the islands, the Tongan Islands, are a small group of islands in the South Pacific. They don't have a big economy, and many of their players have to leave to go to Australia and New Zealand to find jobs and to work. And with 10 players in this squad in Australia and 6 in New Zealand, the Tongan side has really had a fragmented build-up to the competition. Of interest, we've got players of Tongan descent who are currently playing for other countries in the World Cup. We have Willie Offengawe, who's playing for Australia. We have Jonah Lomo of Tonga descent, who's playing for New Zealand, and recently Manu has been called into the Australian side. So you can see the Tongan talent is spread far and wide, basically because of economic necessity.
So worrying time for Claude Azur, the Ivory Coast coach. He co-coaches with Dominique de Vanier, and a worrying time to lose Max Brito in the very first minute of the game. The players have to try and remain focused here, and they'll no doubt be distressed at what they see. Well, Laurie is a doctor of medicine. Maybe you could explain to us the reason for this particular sort of stretcher.
Well, they seem to have mobilised his cervical spine, and certainly got a rigid stretcher, so there's obviously some damage to either cervical spine or somewhere down the spine, and that's a worry. He seems to have moved his feet, so I don't think there's a major problem there, but obviously he's in some degree of discomfort.
Always a distressing time when a player is stretchered from the field, and so Max Brito leaves the field. His replacement is out there, Thierry Kuami, and it rather knocks the stuffing out of the game early on. We've only been going for a couple of minutes, and we've had this lengthy hold-up. So play resumes now. We've still only had a couple of minutes. As I say, no score in the match. And in fact, Laurie, it can affect both sides, really, that sort of thing, can't it?
Yes, certainly. If someone takes a terrible injury in the game, your concentration does wax and wane a little bit. Let's hope the man's not as bad as it appears initially.
Alfred Oku at the back of the line-out for the Ivory Coast. Beside him is Afiaki. Afiaki is a tall player, an easy jump for him, but the referee says not enough of a gap there. There is Inoki Afiaki, a New Zealand-based player, plays in Wellington, and he'll provide excellent height near the back of the line-out for the Tongans. Well, it looks like we're going to get a goal kick early on here from Victor Kouassi. Not too far away from halfway, so there you can see it. It'll be a kick of a good 50 metres as the infringement came at the line-out.
Well, the referee pulled him up for closing the gap, but certainly from the advantage of having a retroscope and sitting this side of the field, that seemed to be rather a harsh decision against the Tongans.
Well, it was originally given as a free kick. Now, maybe one of the Tongans said something to referee Reardon, and he turned it into a penalty, because, of course, you can't kick directly for goal from a free kick. So, Victor Kouassi, first chance of the match. Always heading out to the right, so the first opportunity is not taken by the Ivory Coast, and the score remains at 0-0. The man who'll be kicking or trying to kick the goals for Tonga, Sateki Tuipulotu. Kick charged. Opportunity here for Ivory Coast, getting back in cover defence very quickly was Samana Mafilio. And this will be a 5-metre scrum. Some quick thinking there. Although the Ivory Coast player did appear to charge over the 22. So 7 minutes gone, no score. Frederic Dupont, and he put it under his own hooker's feet. So another free kick given. Referee Reardon certainly asserting his authority early in this match.
Well, that's the first time I've seen that rule in this World Cup. It may have taken place, but generally the referees, I think, have been looking at the scrums as just a means of getting the game restarted, and to have a ruling where putting under the feet is a rather inconsistent ruling, and certainly it will need to be cleared up amongst the referees.
Afiaki snaps it up for Tonga. Good charge by Inoki Afiaki. 10 metres out from the 22. And another penalty. Things just a little testy in there. Inoki Afiaki. In fact, that is Inoki Afiaki. Willie Losey is wearing the 6th jersey today for Tonga. Afiaki a little bit slow to get up.
Well, Ivory Coast have been known from time to time for their lack of discipline. In fact, it's the only World Cup game ever to be called off or abandoned through aggression and violence was their trial match against Morocco in the 1991 World Cup Elimination Series.
Now they called for a head-high tackle. So the game just stuttering along at the moment. Now the Tongans get an opportunity with Afiaki. 5 metres on the Ivory Coast side of halfway. Taken out quickly by Tufui. Away for Vunipola. Good charge here from Mana Otai, the captain. Up for Feo Vunipola, the hooker. Now they're starting to open the game up a little, the Tongans. And it looked like another head-high tackle. This time made by Somalia Kone. And they don't want to test the patience of the referee for too long, as the penalty goes to Tonga in a kickable position.
Well, of the two sides, I think, in fact, I'm sure Tongan plays a more structured football. They've had quite a conservative approach to rugby over the years. They tend not to spin it as wide and as quickly as perhaps Mana Samoa, Fiji wish to do. They tend to try and keep it tight, drive up the middle, use their big forwards and their big loose forwards. Cote d'Ivoire, on the other hand, I haven't really been able to work out any type of structure or pattern to their play. They tend to obviously be battling for first phase possession, and because they're not quite sure whether they're going to win their ball or not, they just seem to be going along and playing the game. Obviously that's not going to get far at this level of rugby, and I think we'll see that if these head-high tackles continue and the aggression continues, Tonga will tighten the game up. They'll keep it tight. They won't want to mix it out there with illegal tackles, and it will cause the Ivory Coast to commit these errors and obviously kick the goals.
First penalty attempt today for Sateki Tui Pelotu for Tonga, and that is straightened through, and Tonga lead by 3 points to 0 over the Ivory Coast. Boubacar Kamara, then the restart for the Ivory Coast, just makes it the 10 metres, and it's in fact come from the Ivory Coast. And there's the big man J.E., hard man to put down. He's the star of their forward pack, reaching in and grabbing at Dupont. They like to run with the ball. Good surging run here from Oku, and the hurried clearance made by Uduvai Nuku. But the Cote d'Ivoire coming back very quickly, replying to that penalty goal by Tui Pelotu. Here's Willie Losey with the clean-shaven head towards the back of the line-out. Called into the team late. Plays for North Harbour in the New Zealand competition. Oku's made a pretty good start. That was a good surging run once again, except he lost the ball in the tackle. Alfred Oku, number 7. Tongan team very disappointing the other night against Scotland. They lost their discipline, amongst other things. They lost the game as well. And referee Reardon handing out a lot of penalties early on.
Yes, but I think it's fair to say we saw tremendous commitment and intensity in their first game against France. They held the French to a 6-point spread with 20 minutes to go before Barletti Mahoney got ordered off, and then they lost a little bit, losing by a large score. But really the intensity and commitment in that first game was superb, and at one stage there it looked like it was going to be the first major upset of the World Cup.
Good jump there by Mafi in fact it was Latu Kepu for Tonga, and yet another penalty. This time it's against number 6 Patrice Père, who was offside coming round the side of the ruck. So this is Alisi Vunipola, one of 3 Vunipola brothers in this Tongan World Cup team. Well, he's only 23 years of age now, Alisi Vunipola. Now his brother, Feo Vunipola. I'll be looking towards Afiaki all day, one would imagine, near the back. Considerable height advantage for the Tongans.
Not doing anything.
Trapped in the back by Manarotai. Now Vunipola, a little kick. In fact, it was Vaianuku, the left winger, who made the kick. Mistake inside the 22. Trouble here. Referee playing an advantage. Vunipola lobs it away for his brother Alisi Vunipola. Tui Pelotu, the fullback, was in. And the referee played a long advantage there, Don Reardon. And he has got the Ivory Coast for offside. And this is another shot at goal for Sateki Tui Pelotu.
Yes, a surprising decision by the referee to allow the advantage to run that long. When you're in a game like this where you've got a lot of aggression, a lot of high tackles, and basically a pretty bustling type of scrappy game, it's important for the referee to stamp his authority on it, to let the players know where they stand and that illegal tactics aren't going to be allowed. And certainly in that situation, after he allowed the play to continue, the Ivory Coast chaps were offside and almost tackling high again. So I find it surprising the referee wasn't a little bit more authoritative in that situation.
Tui Pelotu pushing to the side this time. So his average at the Rugby World Cup is quite low, as you saw there, 30%. And it remains Tonga 3, Ivory Coast 0. The game rather disrupted by that early injury to Max Brito. Ivory Coast losing their first match by 89-0 over Scotland. Improving considerably in the second to be beaten 54 points to 18. Manarotai, the Tonga captain. Bustling play by the Ivory Coast players. Afiaki is number 7 for Tonga. Now he sets it for Tuifo. Oh, that's a bad pass across to Tui Pelotu. Opportunity for Jean Satik. Ball control lacking from both sides, as in the end Tavita Vaianuku crashes in. The latest news we understand on Max Brito, that he has been taken by helicopter to hospital. At this stage he has no feeling from his head down, so we'll certainly await developments there. On Max Brito, stretched from the field at just the 2nd minute. Fa'u Vunipola leading the charge for the Tongans. And yet another penalty by Don Reardon. And Certainly the early stages of this match have been dominated by the whistle from the referee and the penalty against, this time, Edouard Angaran, the hooker for Ivory Coast. Well, not electing to kick for points this time. The Tongans, through Elisi Vunipolo, have kicked for field position. Well, that's a very high penalty count for the first 25 minutes or so of this match. Vunipolo. Again looking for the tall timber down the back. Falls nicely for Tufui. Vunipolo. In as the extra man again is Tui Pelotu, the fullback. Whipped out again. Now a change of direction. Vunipolo. Mana Otai. Away for Tavita Vaianuku. And not able to get the pass back in field. But the Tongans really threatening now the Ivory Coast line.
Yes, and that's the first time we've seen the Tongan backs move the ball without some error, unforced error coming in, and showing they're showing the right option taking and a high level of ball handling skills. This is more what we expect from the Tongan side.
Big scrum here for the Ivory Coast. Taken out nicely by Frédéric Dupont, the most accomplished little halfback, and well cleared. Like most of these players, he plays his rugby in France, plays at Nîmes. Bavalu Latukefu. Well picked up by Tufui. Drop kick from Vunipolo. And Elisi Vunipolo. And in fact, the referee's gone back as the drop kick went away to the left and has decided on a free kick, closing the gap too quickly. Well, under the old laws, of course, Vunipolo could have had another drop kick here, but that's not permitted. Now it's away to Vunipolo, inside to Willie Losay. That's the goal line in the background. Now the big prop for Talakai. There's been some solid defence here from the Ivory Coast, but again, they've killed the ball on the ground and just repeated infringements. Tongans have taken it quickly. They're going to go for the 7-pointer instead. Afiyaki, it's going to be a penalty try this time. Well, the referee, Don Reardon, has had enough. Constant infringing from the Ivory Coast, and from that penalty 5 metres out, the referee has awarded a penalty try.
Yes, I think that's the correct decision. He's just stamping his authority on it. You'd have to say, though, the Ivory Coast is certainly playing with a lot more vigour and a lot more intensity than we would have expected before this game, and they've certainly developed as a team over this competition. Their first game to Scotland was a shocking loss, yet they played much better against France, and today they're certainly doing well against the Tongan side, which seems perhaps just a little bit off the pace at this point.
Well, referee Reardon there having an opportunity to speak to the captain. And he's just told Jean Satik, the captain, that unless they improve, he'll just keep penalising for the entire game. Yes, that certainly was a vital try. Namibia were the favourites to come to the Rugby World Cup, and they took the Ivory Coast rather too lightly. They played 6 or 7 of their reserve players and got beaten. So the penalty try is converted by Sateki Tui Pelotu, and Tonga lead by 10 points to 0. So let's have a look here. Afiyaki took it. No way the Ivory Coast players were back 10 metres. And the referee, who's been blowing his whistle for the entire game, mainly against the Ivory Coast, had enough. Now the kick out. Taken by Elise Vunipolo. Good run by the little fly half for Tonga. Now it's set for Tufui. The run in midfield made by Mafilio. Ripped out by Tufui for Afiaki. Been prominent in the early stages of this game, Noki Afiaki. Now Vunipolo back in position. Sets it up for Latu Kefu. The Tongans starting to play with a little more confidence now. 10-metre line, Ivory Coast territory. And again, it won't come out of there. Good crowd in at Olympic Park for this final match for these two sides at the World Cup. Tufui with the kick. And nicely judged too by the little fellow, Nafe Tufui, having his first game at the Rugby World Cup. The Tongans, though, have got 6 or 7 players, Laurie, who haven't been able to get onto the field. Yes,
they've got 8 players that side have played every game in this competition, and I think there are 4 players that haven't actually put their boots on at all.
Knocked through the line out by Patrice Pear, number 6 for the Ivory Coast. Well, they came to this World Cup, they said it would be a learning curve, and they would have been shocked by their first loss to Scotland by 89 points to 0. They certainly showed in the match the other night against France that they could become very competitive as a rugby force. Tufui away for Vunipola. Big left wing 3/4. Tavita Vaianuku sets it nicely. Willie Losay is number 6 over the 22-metre line. Again, Tufui. Again, it's Vaianuku. Trouble here for the Ivory Coast. Vaianuku finally taken with the goal line right there. Now Tufui. And the ball is killed once again. Things starting to get a little heated in there. And I suppose the Ivory Coast players are getting frustrated by the number of penalties that they're conceding. They've conceded another one right on the line. Now the Tongans, of course, have got a few options here. They could put down a scrum, perhaps. Now referee Reardon wants to have a chat here with Salmalia Kone, number 5, and he's also brought the captain, Jean Satik, over. Most of these players speak French, so whether in fact Don Reardon is getting through to Salmalia Kone, we'll never know, but he has told him about use of the boot. Any more? Off. So Tonga, leading by 10 points to 0, set up this move. Tufui. Up goes it to number 4, Pauvalu Latu Kefu. And fairly feeble defence from the Ivory Coast, but the big, strong second rower from the ACT in Australia, Pauvalu Latu Kefu, gets the try, which gives Tonga a 15-0 advantage. So the big man gets his first try at the tournament. They have a considerable weight advantage over the Ivorians. Another easy conversion for Sateki Tuipulotu. And Tonga have established a big lead already, 17 points to 0.
Well, Tonga taking the right options here. They use their forward power, a structured move from a penalty, and the weight and the size of the Tongan forwards crashing over for a try. They have to keep this game tight. There is certainly a lot of niggle coming in from the Côte d'Ivoire side. I'm not certain why. Maybe it's a lack of discipline or a little bit of the French flair. but certainly they've been guilty twice, I've seen, of putting the boot a little bit in the wrong place. So I think Tonga must tighten it up, keep it tight, use their forward power, just drive it up the middle.
Tonga get the ball back. Again, it was the try scorer Latu Kefu up for Afiaki, and the Cote d'Ivoire will finally be able to feed a scrum. Well, this has been a very physical encounter so far. So Frederic Dupont. Dupont whips it across for Kamara. They love to run with the ball. Good dummy sold by Nyaku. Here's an opportunity for Sulama. And it was desperate Tongan defence that got across. But what a lovely back move from the Ivory Coast.
Well, that's the first time we've seen their break spat out. They showed a high skill level there. Made the half break, flicked it wide from Kamara, and a lot of pace out there wide.
They haven't had a great deal of ball to play with in the game so far. Falamani Mafi and Pauvolo Latu Kefu and Anoki Afiaki in there for Tonga. In fact, they're going right over the back to Vunipolo. Well worked.
Yes, that did come off, but it's an unusual tactic to call a short line out on your throw-in, 2 metres from your line, and throw it right over the back. Generally, a safe, conservative approach would have been expected. They're winning ball comfortably at number 2. They could have taken it and drive up the front. There's little risk or no risk associated with that move.
So a 5-1 advantage so far on the lineouts for Tonga. Ivory Coast, though, have this one just near the Tongan 22. Charging back in was Lasisi. Now the kick by Dupont. Tui Pelotu waits. They're all there. And it looks as though they've got themselves offside. They're ahead of the kicker, Frederic Dupont. And yet another penalty against the Ivory Coast, and really they are mounting. Alisi Vunipolo. This match being played at Olympic Park in Rustenburg, which is about 90 kilometres from both Pretoria and Johannesburg. Very close to Sun City, Rustenburg. Referee Reardon has had a lot of work to do in the first 30 minutes of this game. Now Feo Vunipolo. Well claimed and close. Midfield thrust by Unu Vaianuku. Tonga winning a lot of good second phase ball. Mana Otai up to the try scorer Latu Kefu. There it is again for Tufui. Away for Pinieli Latu. In fact, it's the centre three-quarter Marfilio. Support infield, but the man's in touch as Nafe Tufui heads for the line. But in fact, Samana Marfilio, the centre three-quarter, has put a foot in touch.
A good period of play by the Tonga. They set up, after winning the line out up the front, when they drove it a little, they spun it wide, set up 2 rucks, and then spun it wide again using the skills. Unlucky there that he went over, but certainly that's the type of play we expect from a side like Tonga.
Tonga leading by 17 points to 0. 2 tries, one of those a penalty try. Angoran throws. Awkward for halfback Dupont, did well. lot of responsibility at this World Cup on Abubakar Kamara, the man who had to come on very early in the piece to replace Atanaz Dali. Another line-out win for the Ivory Coast. They've won precious few line-outs at the start of this game. Now Kamara, always given possession away, bad kick. So Tonga now can set it in a good attacking position to Fui. Vunipola sees a little gap, flicks it up nicely for Vaianuku. Vaianuku still has it. And the pass in field is a poor one. Afiaki. Goal line just 5 metres away. Taken in by one of the Ivory Coast players and snapped away towards the touchline by halfback Dupont, and they survive another raid and a good clearing kick from Frédéric Dupont.
Well, the crowd's obviously seen something we haven't seen. There's a lot of whistling and catcalling going on. Perhaps we'll pick it up on the replay.
Well, it doesn't seem to be getting too much sympathy, the player on the ground. In fact, there are several players left on the ground. There's a very good run here by Vaianuku. The infield pass, though, wasn't very good. And really the Tongans lost it at that stage.
Yes, it was a turnover to the Ivory Coast, but now the player's on his feet taking the ball. It's quite correct.
Very untidy sequence, and finally the clearing kick was made by Frédéric Dupont. So several of the Ivory Coast players are injured. Abubakar Kamara, now of course Atanaz Dali is sitting on the bank today, and so there is an opportunity for their best player, if you like, to come into this game. Somalia Kone, he's okay, he's back in a position. So now the concern is for Abubakar Kamara, and one would imagine if he can't come back onto the field, and it does look pretty serious, then we may well see Atanaz Dali, who is the captain of the team.
Yeah, it's surprising if the men are the best players that in fact they're not actually in the original side. It's making Dali's in fact coming on.
So there is Dali, the man who is the captain of the World Cup team. Play to resume. Tonga leading by 17 points to 0. And yet another penalty. So a player left injured on the ground. It's the big prop for Tucson J.E., who is another key member of this team. And once again, Tonga passing up the opportunity to kick for goal.
Keep going, Don, nothing wrong.
So that's Abubakar Kamara. The doctor is there, and all players at the Rugby World Cup have to be checked by a doctor before they can be replaced. Losay jumping high at the back for Tonga. Finally it's ripped away by Talakai. Good run here by Tavita Vaianuku. Players there in support. Snapped up again by Latu Kefu, and the try is scored by Mana Otai, the captain of Tonga. He gets the third try of the day, Mana Otai. Well, he's a very popular player, Mana Otai. He's done a very good job leading this Tongan team at the Rugby World Cup. And that is just reward for him. Another strong surging run here from Tavita Vaianuku. Then he got good support from his forwards as the ball went to ground. It was snapped up by the man who scored the try a little earlier, Pauvalu Latu Kefu, and the surging run from Mana Otai and the try.
There's good, tight, structured football. They started from a good two-handed take at the back of the line out by Lose. They set up the driving maul from a short pass from Tumai. Controlled it. They didn't panic when they put it down. They had the numbers there, and Manu goes over wide out.
Ball did go to ground there. Just a question of whether it bounced forward or not. Referee Reardon said no. Sateki Tuipulotu. Good looking kick. So Tuipulotu hasn't had a great time with the boot at the Rugby World Cup. Converts the try scored by Mana Otai, and Tonga away to 24-0. Well, that looks like the end of the tournament for Abubakar Kamara. But an opportunity for Atanas Dali, who was injured in the match against Scotland very early on, to get back into the action. Now, he is a very talented player, plays his rugby in France, in fact is a journalist in Paris. Tongan team playing with good control in this match. And only rarely, Laurie, have we seen the Ivory Coast get any attacking opportunities.
Yes, but you'd have to say that the Ivory Coast is certainly playing with much more commitment in this game than we saw them play in the first game against Scotland. For example, on that kick-off, there were 3 forwards running on the ball carrier. I can remember against Scotland, the stage of the game, Sanaka was the only forward putting pressure on the ball whatsoever. So certainly they lifted their game. They've got greater commitment, and they're causing more problems to Tonga than I would have expected before this game.
We have 40 minutes up in the first half, but the referee will be playing a long injury time, one would imagine. Anything up to 5 minutes or slightly more. Taken in by Mafilio. And Tonga will get the scrum. Well, the Ivory Coast have been very frustrated by the referee's decisions in the first half and mistakes they've made themselves. And as you can see from that, they've won very little ball so far.
Because I think that reflects too the quality of the Tongan loose forward trio of Botai, Apakila and Lose. They've dominated, Tongans have had a good loose forward trio in any game, and their loose forward trio have dominated the loose play in the 3 games to date.
Another loud peal on the whistle. Otai perhaps not too happy with the rucking methods of the Ivory Coast. Having a word with referee Reardon. Away we go again. Otai up for Tafui, knocked down by Nyaku. Now Unu Vaianuku. Another penalty. Well, they're coming thick and fast, the penalties. Now the burst made by Tufui. Little halfback gets it back. Good support from Lose. Another storming burst from Latu Kefu. Now the hooker, Vudikola. Away for Vaianuku. And Tonga losing control of the ball. And a big thump downfield by Jean Satik. Vaianuku hands it back. Well, the referee is particularly concerned and very vigilant the moment the ball goes to ground.
Yes, I think he has to be. Early in that game, we saw a couple of loose boots flying around, and he's interpreting the game to the letter of the law. But the Ivory Coast can't afford to give away this amount of possession and hope to get any points on the board. They're just going to have to tighten up their discipline.
Short line out called by Ivory Coast. Nice jump near the back by Patrice Pear. Big solid tackle made by Unu Vaianuku on Alfred Oku. Away for Dupont. They've looked good running with the ball. Away for Sulama. Players making not much effort to retain their feet, just crashing in over the top. A lot of injury time in the first half. Tackle made there. Now just look at these players come crashing in and no effort to retain their feet, Laurie.
None whatsoever.
So it's been a rather disjointed first half. Toussaint Jayi. But despite all that, Tonga have run in 3 tries, one of those a penalty try. Now one of the Tongan players being patched up.
Well, you'd have to say for the first 30 minutes this game was really a totally unstructured affair. Both sides were just trying to win the ball and run it at will. And in the last 10 minutes, 50 minutes, we've seen the Tongan side tighten it up. They've tried to keep it tighter in the forwards, driving it, setting up second, third, fourth phase rucks, and then running off it. And they're starting to play a game which will obviously score a lot more points for them in the second half.
Taken out of the back by Lassisi. Kick made by little halfback Dupont, and the Ivory Coast move on to attack now. Well, it's been most of the territory, most of the possession for Tonga in this first half, and it's reflected on the scoreboard. They lead by 24 points to 0. Another loud appeal on the whistle, and yet another penalty. Well, the penalty count is mounting dramatically against the Ivory Coast. Elisi Budipolo. Not such a good kick this time for the little fly half. Now Sulama, who's a good runner. 10-metre line in Tongan territory. And you can see that the moment the ball goes to ground, referee Reardon blows the whistle. In fact, he blows it again because that's half-time. And at the end of the first 40 and a half, and goodness me, it goes against the Ivory Coast, and they can't believe it. Toussaint Jayi, you can see the expression on his face, but the referee said that, in fact, there was some offside play there as the Tongans take it quickly. Now to Fui, and the ball knocked down. Well, the penalty count against Ivory Coast is enormous.
Certainly does. They can't afford to give away that possession. But I find it really strange that the best 2 players for the Ivory Coast, Dali and Sananko, weren't in the original lineup. If the men are well enough to put on boots and come on as reserves, and they are the best players, and certainly Dali's the best goal kicker in their side, it's an unusual choice to have them sitting on the reserve bench for this game.
Well, this man is a real personality in Ivory Coast rugby, Toussaint Jayi. There he is, number 3, and he goes. Well, he's after the ball there, and the injury comes as he crashes to the ground. Now the scrum is set. Budipolo brings it in. Nice little move with Mana Otai. 22-metre line in Ivory Coast territory. Away by Tufui. Little kick push forward by Budipolo, and the mark taken by Victor Kouassi. They're very steady and reliable fullback, playing in his 9th international match for the Ivory Coast.
Well, we could see Ivory Coast start to dominate the lineouts here. Sonenko's a world-class number 8. He would bless most sides. In fact, he's been in 2 sides that have beaten both the All Blacks and the Springboks, playing for French Aspire against the Springboks in 1992 and playing for a Southwest selection against the All Blacks in 1990. So he's a world-class player, and he can certainly win a lot of ball in the lineout, particularly the back of the lineout for the Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay.
Well, Tonga have been winning a lot of ball towards the back, through Afiaki. He's got it again as he's taken down by Aku. Now the big charge from Fuka for Tonga, but again it's ball control is not good, and the clearing kick made by Frédéric Dupont, who has given sterling service to the Ivory Coast at this World Cup. Both of these 2 sides will be on their way home in the next couple of days. Their World Cup will be over when the final whistle blows. Va'u Vunipola. A lot of the Tongans will be going back to Australia and New Zealand where they play their rugby. Taken in by Nafe Tufui. And you can hear the crowd reaction as the penalty goes to Ivory Coast, one of the few they've had in the match. Take it quickly. Jean Satik is number 13. Finally snapped up by Curtis Blay, number 1, the loose head prop. Now they set it properly. Dupont. Lovely runners with the ball as Lucien Nyoku Jean Satik is not very happy. He's complaining to the touch judge that he got a finger in the eye, I think. And Ephraim Sklar number 12 is the man being called out, Ulu Vaianuku. That was the incident, and the penalty went against Tonga, against Unu Vaianuku. That's a lovely take by Patrice Père for the Ivory Coast. $24-0. Referee says use it. They've got to keep it moving. Got it up, held up nicely. Now Dupont. Away for Dali. Solid tackle made on Satik. And the ball was knocked on.
Well, that's interesting to see. Since Sonenko's come onto the field, the Ivory Coast are starting to take Tonga on at the tight game. Perhaps their self-belief's just risen a little bit with the addition of a player of his calibre.
Tufui. Somebody in the crowd's got a whistle, and it's a little bit off-putting as the clearing kick is made for Tonga. Inoki Afiaki wasn't selected for the first game. And was pretty disappointed about that. Willie Losay in front of him, but the throw to be made by Angoran for Ivory Coast. He gets it and makes a good surging run. Terrific run by Angoran, the hooker. Now they hit it hard 10 metres out, but looks like Tonga might have grabbed it. Pretty hefty work going on the ground there. And it'll be Ivory Coast ball, but what a sensational run there by the hooker, Edouard Angoran.
Well, they're just starting to establish a little bit of dominance in the forward pack, undoubtedly due to Sonenko's presence. But we saw a little bit of off-the-play ball there. The unnamed Tongan lock certainly wasn't going for the ball as he rucked over the Ivory Coast player, but I think it's been picked up by the side line umpires. Pulling out number 3, it must have been the Tongan prop.
Etuini Talakai is the tight head prop for Tonga, and you just get the feeling in this game, Laurie, that the referee's patience is going to be tried once too often, and someone is going to get their marching orders. This is the wonderful run by Edouard Angaran, the hooker. He went clean through the Tongan pack, finally dragged down by Tavita Vaiduku. Now let's see, in fact, if we can see what the referee was concerned about. The player is on the grounds. The player starting to get in there now. And the boot's working from number 3, Etuini Talakai.
Monkish stuff, really. That's always picked up in these games by the line umpires. You're really giving the opposition the position.
Atanas Dali. His first points of the Rugby World Cup. He came with a big reputation. He's finally got onto the park and has kicked a penalty goal, and Ivory Coast are on the board. Every time the Ivory Coast side scored against France, they got an enormous cheer from the crowd, and they were very pleased to see once again they got on the board against Tonga today. Dali gives that a good thump too. Tonga looking to go quickly. Good work by Talakai near the front of the line out for the Tongans. But they don't seem to be making quite the same impact in the game in this early in the second half.
No, the ascendancy of the game seemed to have swung the Ivory Coast way. They're well behind in points, obviously, and they're well behind in penalties conceded. But the presence of Dali and Sonoko has obviously lifted the play, and the game is just ebbing their way a little bit at 9-10 minutes into the second half.
Tufui for Vunipolo. Again, mistakes. Penieli Latu this time knocks it on.
Yes, that's an unforced error and something you wouldn't expect from the Tongan three quarters. Well, here we've got a golden scrum here for the Cote d'Ivoire, and I would suspect they're going to use Sonenko, and he'll probably come off the back of the scrum, probably going the short side.
Yes, Sonali Latu plays for Japan, brother of Penieli Latu. A lot of injuries in this game. This time to hooker Flo Vunipolo. In fact, may well have been Tuakala Fuka. Just the light breeze blowing, temperature in the early 20s, very pleasant and comfortable conditions for this match. 24 points to 3 Tonga lead. And so it looks as though Tuakala Fuka is off the field. So another player leaves, and Penieli Latua is coming on for the Tongans. So away we go again. Dupont handed off the back by Sonoko. Kiwami showing good pace on the left wing side. He was the man to replace Brito. The referee was playing an advantage though. It was offside play against the Tongans. And so here's another chance for Atanaz Dali. And he indicates, yes, he wants to shoot for goal.
Well, the Ivory Coast players had the right idea, but their scrum wasn't strong enough to hold a good 8-man shove from the Tongans, who pushed them off the ball and obviously upset their initial plan. But we see the game, the ascendancy just moving the Ivory Coast way, and the Tongans seem to be playing at this point, getting through the game. And I wonder whether the emotional effort required, which they put in against France, and which really looked like they were going to beat France at one stage, is something which has just drained them a little bit. They're playing well, but they're certainly not playing with the fire and passion and commitment we've seen many Tongan sides play with.
Second opportunity for Atanaz Dali. He's a very good goal kicker. Two out of two for the Ivory Coast captain. 24 points to 6, and the Ivory Coast coming right back into the game in the second half. Kick out made by Vunipolo. Away for left winger Kiwami. And the kick finally made by Victor Kouassi. And this crowd starting now to get in behind the Ivory Coast. They've become favourites, certainly in Rustenburg, with the crowd. Now the Tongans settle it. Guafi, now Vunipolo. Slips it back inside to Vaianuku. Tavita Vaianuku, knocked back by one of the Ivory Coast players. Play on, says referee Reardon. Now Unoy Vaianuku. Up for Mafi, away to Vaianuku again. Storming run here by Mali, away for Tui Palotu, and Sateki Tui Palotu scores a very good try for the Tongans down the left wing side. Stung by two recent penalties against them, which have resulted in points. The Tongans have hit back. This is their best try of the game, and it's scored by their big fullback, Sateki Tui Palotu, with some good surging running here. Twice in the movement, Falamani Mafi, and the last pass out to Tui Palotu, getting close to the touchline, but he stayed in and scored it.
Yes, well, I think this try shows us two things we know well about the Tongans. Firstly, their leg strength. They drive through, pounding the knees up high, and very, very difficult to bring down. And then we see their skills and option taking. They've got great hands, pushing wide, and Tui Palotu over in the corner.
Well, he's had a much better day today with his goal kicking. Not able to convert his own try from the sideline, Sateki Tui Palotu, but Tonga now lead by 29 points to 6. Another look at it here. Some storming running here from the big Tongan forwards. Good work also there from left wing three-quarter Tavita Vaianuku. The final pass is made, and the surge for the corner by Tui Palotu. Ball doesn't go 10 metres, played by an Ivory Coast player.
These are wonderful attacking opportunities. Well known as golden scrums in New Zealand. The attacking side is the option to go left or right and put one extra man in.
Off the bat goes Otai. Looks in field for Afiaki. That's a good tackle by Sonoko. And he's added some real steel to this defence. And Afiaki went nowhere.
Yes, I think that's the wrong option. When you've got the half of the field to play in, there seems little point in playing back to your forwards. You play back to your forwards when you've got a short side and not much room to move it, but they had the whole half the field to run that in with an extra man out wide. So I think Tonga took the wrong option at that point. Here's
another chance for them to spread it a bit wider. But this time the tackle made on halfback Tufui. Uh-oh. An exchange there between Gilbert Bardo and Willie Losey, and the referee may well have to refer to the touch judge on that one. Well, referee Reardon is not terribly interested. Oh, Losey threw one. And we had a bit of an exchange there. Obviously it wasn't spotted by the man on the sideline with the flag.
No, they're both on the ground, difficult to see. Standing up, obviously, it's much easier.
Dali. Sean Satik. Tongan forward pack getting there in numbers. And again, there are problems in there. Well, the temperatures have been fairly high throughout this game. And the referee's going to bring the captains out now.
Yes, I think at this point he'll be saying next man off, regardless of either side. It's a pity the game's degenerated to this. It could have been a good spectacle. There's nothing at stake except, well, there is the pride of both countries, but there's no points in the World Cup at stake in this. In fact, that looked like a wild swing and a miss.
Well, the referee is really laying down the law to the two captains, Sean Satik and Mana Otai. He said, do you want to play the whole game or do you want me to call it off 20 minutes early? And he's instructing the two captains to go and talk to their players.
Well, the Côte d'Ivoire were involved in a game in 1991 against Morocco where the game was abandoned with about 20 minutes to go due to on-the-field violence. And it would seem that maybe the French influence mixed with the strength of the African is quite a volatile mixture on the field, but I'm sure it's not a one-sided affair. I imagine the Tongans are giving as good as they get, and I think both sides obviously need to settle it down and play disciplined and certainly constructive rugby.
So back to the rugby. Otai. Pass from Tufui. Charging in comes Mafilio. Another good solid tackle there by Sinoko. He really has added something to the Ivory Coast effort, certainly in defence, since he got onto the park. Well, the Tongan people are very gentle, polite, but they like to play their rugby hard, very physical type of game. Dupont away for Dali, and that is a lovely kick off the left foot by Atanas Dali. He would be playing under a lot of duress, without any doubt at all, the passing of his father last night. And as we saw at the start, the two sides standing in a minute's silence. Tonga have control of this. They lead by 29 points to 6. They did have control of it. They've lost it again. Now J.E. setting up nicely for Dupont. Away for Dali, the kick. Not such a good one on this occasion. Across for Sulama on the right wing side. Tonga get it quickly. Good storming burst again by Murphy. And the referee most reluctant, and who can blame him, to allow those rucks and balls to continue, even though the ball did come back rather quickly. The whistle had already sounded. Well, that statistic certainly tells quite a lot, and combined with the penalty count, you can very quickly work out while Tonga leads by 29 points to 6.
Yes, and I think that those 34 balls to 10 shows really that the Tonga loose forwards have Otai Lose and Afiaki really try and stay on their feet and use their hands from the legal position of being on their feet, whereas the Ivory Coast loose forwards seem to crash into the loose balls off their feet. They're not in a position there to play the ball, and the ball's obviously there for the taking for any of the Tongan loose forwards who are able to stay upright.
Willie Lose has come to the sideline.
He's had a good World Cup. He had a great game against France in the first game for Tonga, and certainly won a lot of line-out ball for Tonga over this tournament.
Yes, he was forced to play at lock forward against those two nations, France and Scotland, and it's not really a lock forward at all. Now 2 players waiting to get onto the field. Number 16 is Taipei Isitolo. Lasisi goes on for the Ivory Coast. Now it's ripped away for Dupont. Bad pass. And hovering out there is Oku, who's a strong runner. Now Dupont. Going back in cover is Onu Vaianuku. Vaianuku with good support there. Makes it up over halfway and places it nicely. Tui Pelotu losing control of it. Getting very untidy. Now it's Kuasi. Now in fact it's the right winger Sulama. He has it knocked away. Neither side able to retain possession of the ball. Now it's handed back by Talakai. Out from Vunipolo to his brother, Elisi Vunipolo. And his kick is ineffectual, and the clearing from Sulama is not good. So I think we could just about write that particular phase of play right off.
Well, that has to be the worst phase of play in the whole game. There were three episodes where the ball retention failed on both sides. There were 2 poor line kicks, perhaps even the whole tournament. There's certainly some bad options taken and some poor skill level shown by both sides in those 2 to 3 minutes.
Whakaonga is on the field for Tonga. All sorts of replacements on the field, but hard to keep up now. 29 points to 6, Tonga lead. They led by 24-0 at half-time.
What's a good 5, Don?
Touch judge on the far side, Ken McCarthy of Scotland. Had a very difficult afternoon for Don Reardon as Vunipolo throws. Free kick to Tonga. So Whakaonga is at 19, Lutura is in 20. Now this is a free kick. They've come up far too quickly. Referee playing another advantage as Tufui makes the break away for Ba'u Vunipolo. And it's cleared away by Frederic Dupont. Nobody home at the back. Dupont is down. And there's a loud peal on the whistle once again. And it is a late tackle. Another penalty. Well, this game really has deteriorated.
There's not only the skill level dropping off and the game becoming very scrappy, it seems to be there's a genuine misinterpretation or lack of knowledge of the rules by some of the players at Cote d'Ivoire side. There they took the penalty on the second penalty, well wide of the mark. They must take the penalty on or near that mark. That's a basic error. It shouldn't happen in rugby at this level.
So, Tufui for Vunipolo. Kick made by Vaianuku. Very good play by Victor Kuasi. Dali. Oh, a big tackle. The Ivory Coast players didn't like it. Now the charge is made by Whakaonga, the new man on the field. All sorts of gesturing going on here. Referee just says play on. Now Dupont goes to flick it back in field, a misunderstanding. Placed on the ground by Whakaonga again. finally, it's a penalty, and the Tongans don't like it. They'll get marched another 10. So discipline starting to go again, as it did the other night in the match against France.
Well, that was another poor period of play on both sides. Again, there were several episodes where ball retention wasn't maintained, the ball was knocked on, it was passed backwards without watching where it was going. I think these players now are tending to play out this game, and although there's still a bit of a niggle there, they're not really concentrating on the basics.
So the referee's going to stop the play. We have yet another injury. As I mentioned earlier, Laurie, it's getting very hard to keep up. Players from both sides going down injured. The new man on the field has been quite prominent. That's Feleti Whakaona, number 19. Might get even another player on here. Isi Tolo. So number 16 is on. It's going to be Isi Tolo. So Unu Vaianuku is off the field. Almost get the feeling in this game that everybody's having a run. Like a Sunday afternoon picnic.
It certainly seemed to have generated to that, but the accuracy and the skill level of both sides has dropped off. But the other comment to make since half-time is that the ascendancy of the game has really gone, aside from the try that Tonga got, the Ivory Coast way, and that's due to the presence of Sanako on the field and Dala on the field. And certainly the Ivory Coast have played better in the second half than the first half.
Tufui puts a little kick in, fired back by Oku to Victor Kouassi. And he really has been one of the standout players for the Ivory Coast at this Rugby World Cup, Victor Kouassi. Thrown short this time by Vunipolo, cleared away by Tufui. Now the new man, Isi Tolo, who's come into the game for Vaianuku. Unu Vaianuku is off. 15 out from the 22 in centre field. Whistle goes again. And it's another penalty against Ivory Coast. This time they're offside. So Mana Otai has the ball on the mark. And a nice kick by Siteki Tuipolotu. In fact, it was Elisi Vunipolo who made the kick. Just the one try scored since half-time by Tonga. In fact, Ivory Coast outscoring the Tongans by 6-5 in this second half so far. Good catch by the Tongans. They now could drive this one all the way. Trying to work it clear. They do for Tufui. Vunipolo. Big charge coming from Whakaonga. Very near the goal line now. Good resolute defence though by Ivory Coast. Now the ball freed up. Where is it? It's in the arms of Dali. And the clearing kick made. Not out as yet, though.
Good defence there by the Ivory Coast, but they would have had to, Sanako would have had to be lucky. He wasn't pulled up for offside in that ball. He came in from the wrong side and disrupted the flow of the ball back to the Tongan scrum half. So they were lucky to get away without conceding perhaps a penalty or even a penalty try on that occasion.
So Ken McCartney having a chat here with Don Reardon. You get the impression the pace of this game is somewhat less than the pace of the teams in the top half of the World Cup.
the Tongans, when they played at pace, which they did against France, was absolutely brilliant. But this afternoon, you get the impression it's a 90% pace effort. It's just dropped off there. Their commitment and their passion is not there, certainly in the second half.
Well, you saw in the foreground there, it was really just a shove from Salwani Murphy, and he's been penalised for that. Just really another in a long line of incidents in this match. It's a game that has started along. There have been some very good moments, some nice tries by Tonga, but the referee has been forced to play a dominant role in the game. Toussaint Jai then to throw for the Ivory Coast. 29 points to 6. Tonga lead. Good delivery for Dupont. Dali. Little change of tactics. Taken away by Tufui. Tongans drive strongly on him, but once again they can't hold on to the ball. Now an opportunity for the Ivory Coast. Good run by Satik. Ball still live. And is it a touch and goal or across the touchline? It's a line out right near the goal line. And a glorious opportunity here for Ivory Coast to score a try.
Yes, I think they'll probably throw it to Snanko. He's their top jumper. I see he's jumping at 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him moving back to the back of the line out. They try to run around the back and then perhaps bring it back on the short side. No, he's still jumping in the middle line out.
Mana Otai standing just behind him. Diving close to the line, but he's held up. Ball is still there. Number 7, Oku. Alfred Oku scores a very popular try for the Ivory Coast. They've had an excellent second half and have been rewarded with that try by Alfred Oku.
Well, if we look at that line out again, you'll see the ball was going to Snanko. He went up for a forward leap and was pushed out of the line out by Otai. The referee didn't see it or chose to play the advantage, which was the correct shot. If you watch here, he's knocked forward out of the line out. Good play by the Ivory Coast.
Good ripping play here by Oku. He's had a good game, the flanker, and there he is reaching over and scoring the try. Change of goal kicker now, Victor Kouassi. Victor Kouassi not able to convert that try, but it's looking quite respectable now from the Ivory Coast's point of view. Tonga ahead by 29 points to 11.
Well, certainly the Ivory Coast has dominated the second half. Watch Snanko. In fact, he was pushed out of the line out by his own player.
Patrice Pear had a go at the line. He was rather too high, was held up. But much better body position from Alfred Oku. Taken down by Sunoco, handed back by the try scorer, playing with a bit more confidence now as the kick is nudged down by Frédéric Dupont. And you can only admire the way Ivory Coast have improved at this Rugby World Cup after their toweling the other day from Scotland. And territory in the second half, while it still favours Tonga, not by much. Va'uvunipolo looking for Afiaki. Taps it up nicely for Feleti Pakaonga. Big charging run there by Latu Kepu. Now it's taken out by Tufui. Isitolo is number 16. And it won't come out of there.
good play by Tonga. Again, it's an example of the tremendous driving power in their thick legs. They drive hard, they bring their knees high. It wasn't really bad defence by Ivory Coast at all. It's just extremely difficult to bring down these big Tongan forwards who are on a rampage.
Led by Dupont. Dali getting good distance. Sui Pelotu just keeps it in. Just on the Tongan side of halfway. And good work by the Ivory Coast. They got up there very quickly. Well, there are a lot of volatile players out there.
There's 3 minutes to go, 3-4 minutes to go. The referee's just got to settle it down. Well, that was the wrong option taken by Tui Pelotu. He only had one man in support, and he tried to run into a gap with 3 men coming down on him. Really, under pressure. His job is to clear the ball, protect your red zone. I think that's just pushing and shoving. There's not really much venom or bigger in it.
John Satik has gone down, and I think he might have been complaining once again about a finger in the eye. As we check once again the statistics, well, the possession in the second half in favour of the Ivory Coast, and in fact they've outscored Tonga in the second spell by 11-5.
Well, you can certainly understand that Dali didn't play because of the bereave in his family, but it's astonishing that they left Sananko sitting on the bench. He's without a doubt a world-class forward. His presence in the side is not just the benefit that he gives by winning the ball and driving and his constructive play at the back, but he lifts the rest of the team. We've seen them beat Tonga in the second half, no doubt mainly due to his presence on the field since half-time.
So the crowd are amusing themselves in another way as yet another injury break occurs on the field. I don't think the referee Don Reardon will be too upset when he blows the whistle for full time here. Little kick is charged. Scrum fed by Dupont. Dali. Satik seems to have recovered fairly quickly. Number 16 is Thierry Kiwami. He was on the field very early with the most unfortunate incident and injury to Max Brito. That is the running time, but there's been a lot of injury breaks again in the second spell. He ran about 4 or 5 minutes over in the first half. Now Dupont. Dali. Very solid hit. Made by Vunipolo, but he was offside. So they take it quickly for Dupont. Lovely run here by Lassisi. An unbreak forward. 5 metres out from the 22. Again Dupont. Ball still live. Forwards from both sides very slow now to get to the ruck. Well, the pace has slowed quite considerably towards the end of this game. Quite a telling statistic right at the end there. Tonga have been dominant in the rucks and the balls. The Ivory Coast have competed well in the lineouts.
Yes, particularly in the second half, and Snugger's been on.
More problems here for a Tongan player. This time it's Piniali Latu.
Okay, here we go.
Referee's not going to wait for him though. Latu picking the ball up.